of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. Roll call, please.
Chairman Scott Tremblay.
Here.
Member William Dittmer.
Here.
Member Jenny Sorrell.
Here.
Member Todd McClary.
Here.
Member Tom Kinsella.
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew.
Here.
City Manager Leonard Sossaman.
Here.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve board minutes? So, to clarify the motion, is it for both sets?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're going to move on to comments from the general public. And I'm going to start with, and this is just to clarify, this is going to be for the CRA, for the Waterfront Overlay District path. And then we'll have general comments for the next meeting that starts at 7, but I want to keep those separate. So when you come up, this is going to be addressing the path down the Waterfront Overlay District. And then when we get into the meeting that starts at 7, we'll get into general comments for everything else in terms of city business. That having been said, Reverend Spalding. Okay. Okay, so you're okay speaking at 7?
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am. The next person was John Bird. Mr. Bird, come on up. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Yes, I'm the general manager at the Whiskey Joe's restaurant.
Excellent, okay.
In the district over there. And certainly we had a brief meeting last week and discussed some options we had, and then also encouraged all the business owners there to bring any ideas they had to the table. And I know Eric from Gildog was very, very vocal about some ideas. And certainly we feel that, as everyone I'm sure does, that's really a hidden gem right back there on the water. A lot of potential to draw a lot of business. And I guess we need to get started. I believe as you mentioned in the last meeting, hey, we just need to get our foot in the water, start paddling it, and keep this thing moving. I think the lighting and the pathway is a great start. I think we moved on to some other things as far as signage on 19 and off 19 and inside the district as well. All of it much needed. And then we kicked around some other ideas about a 0.25% sales tax for the area down there that could be used for marketing in the future. But I think there's a lot of viable ideas that we brought up, and I certainly appreciate the time to have everybody hear their thoughts and get our voices heard.
Thank you for your input today.
You're welcome.
The next person that I had signed up was, is it Martin Defany?
Yep,
Duffany?
Yep. Thank you.
Welcome, come on up.
Yep. So as John, my general manager, pointed out, I'm Martin Duffany. You guys might have remembered me when we started building the Whiskey Joe's in the Waterfront District. My company, my COO and my owner, John Talashay and Jim Mckinnon, when we first visited that property, it was all overgrown and garbage everywhere. But as you guys could see, the beautiful building and the millions of dollars that we put into that area, we truly believe in the Waterfront Overlay District. I've been a resident in Florida for over 23 years, right on 52 in the Suncoast. That's where I live. So this is where myself and my family go to eat when I'm not working, 70 hours a week. So, but even with that being said, even back in the day, 20 years ago, we didn't know it was back here for maybe 5 or 6 years. I think, just to expand on what John said and what Will, we talked about at the meeting, I think the biggest thing is that we have to understand in this city that is a gem. I travel all over the state looking for different waterfront properties in Florida to expand the Whiskey Joe's brand. And it's still one of the, when I remember the first day that I went to that property and the feeling that I got, I think a lot of people feel that same way about the Waterfront Overlay District. And for the last couple of years that we've been there, almost 3 years now in March, it's been a little stagnant. I mean, there's been some improvements, but I think that what the original idea that came to me last week at the meeting was absolutely incredible. I think that we could do no wrong by marketing that area to the fullest extent. When we had the Back to Blue big event last Saturday, every restaurant in that area was up 20, 30% in sales. But I don't think it should have to be an event to that magnitude to have those type of sales rolling in there. I think it has to do with, people feeling comfortable coming into the area, the lighting, the parking, and everything else. Signage is great, inside the district, but I think we need to take advantage of US 19 to make sure that people know that we're there. Some of the ideas that were brought up is if you go into Ybor City and you have that big sign and it says, "Welcome to Ybor 7th Avenue." I think that waterfront overlay district deserves something like that on 19 to let the community come in. The other thing is, and my COO, Jim Mckinnon, might speak to it on Zoom, so I'll save that for him, but there's other opportunities to get a sales tax that is just for that district to help with the marketing. We all know that you can't even drive down State Road 54 anymore without seeing the impacts of the housing and development that's over there, but there's no waterfront there. We know that, right? But so people want to come to the waterfront and visit these incredible restaurants that are all along the waterfront district, and I think that would be a big plus if we were able to do that. So with that, I thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I think we have someone on Zoom. It was Jim Mckinnon, and I wanted to see if we can invite him to speak at this time.
Mr. McKinnon, are you there?
Great, it's Jim, please. Good evening, can you all hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I've been very well represented by John and Marty, and according to Marty, I didn't realize how much he works 70 hours a week. I'm starting to feel a little guilty here, but we'll move past that. I think that that this area is completely underrated, and I think we may actually have self-esteem issues, because this area, with everybody coming together collectively, and that's why I'm so excited to hear what I've heard, read what I've read, and then be allowed to speak to you all. I find this is going to be an extraordinary opportunity at this tipping point. As you all know, that COVID's not been good to restaurants throughout the country. California's still in a terrible situation. Florida at least has seen the sanity to move forward. But all of our locations typically are outdoor locations. So, we are perfect COVID setup type of operations. But there is a real need for our area to be improved upon. We are not a John's Pass. We could certainly be a John's Pass, but you look at the condition of the roadways, the sidewalks, lack of lighting, security, and all of those issues, parking. All these things can be cured with money, and unfortunately, as operators, we don't all have the wherewithal to fund all of this. We have some exciting things coming with the purchase of the property next door to us. We're looking forward to what that may turn out to be, and just a general improvement. But if in the industries I have been in the past, I've been in communities that are special districts. I've also been in the hotel industry. And what we have cleverly learned to do is have our customers pay for our needs. In Pensacola, everybody is charged as a customer, and it's called an SRIA fee, which is a fee that is paid for by the customers and flows through to the county as a revenue stream. I think for us to be successful in the long run, we need the community, the city in particular, help in creating a district where we can tax our guests, not significantly, but a tax that goes into place, paid by our customers, that funds a marketing and capital expenditure program that allows us to have equal footing with the larger properties or locations, with improved infrastructure, improved signage, and become even a greater draw. I'm not sure how the other operators are performing, but our revenues are dramatically up here in the last month or so, because I think people are drawn to this lovely location, but they can be outdoors. They can feel more comfortable even if they don't have issues with the pandemic. So we need the city to help us, because we'll fight it out on our own. We won't be successful on our own, but with the city working with us, taxing our guests through some type of special district, which I think we have with the WOD, the underpinnings to accomplish it, then we could have an ongoing perpetual funding of a marketing program that we can set up as a committee amongst our peers here, and a capital expenditure, which I know the city has some funds available or allocated towards it already, to augment this. So imagine what we could look like after funding for 5 years. So there are some really fabulous ideas on the table. They all require money to be successful. What I'm asking you to do is create a revenue mechanism to provide for these great ideas for now and in the future. And I can tell you, we will wholeheartedly support that. And I think I believe from what I've heard from Marty and John, there's tacit approval from a lot of our neighbors, because I think this could be the coolest place around, but we're not going to be able to do it on our own. So I just want to thank you for giving the opportunity to speak. I'd like for us to think big thoughts. Let's think bigger than we've ever imagined to make this truly a special place, and a place that really brings a lot of guests in and a lot of people happy, and brings a lot of funding into the city to support the city's activities along with ours specifically. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. That's all that I had signed up, but I see there's other people here. By show of hands, would anyone else like to speak as to some of the improvements that we're looking at? Seeing no hands. At this time, I wanted to know if we wanted to reserve comment until after and start the presentation. Is everybody okay with that? Mr. Sossaman? Okay. With that, I'm going to move on to board business, and I would like to have Mr. Sossaman invite our guests for the Waterfront Overlay District engineering proposal.
Thank you, Mayor. With us tonight, I'll ask Chris to come on forward. Chris Martin with Ayers and Associates. They have been retained by the city for doing a number of things, and he has presented 2 proposals so far. And I liked Mr. Jim McKinnon's remark when he said, "Think bigger than you've ever thought before." And I think Chris is ready for you to tell him how big to think. So with that, Chris Martin.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Chris Martin with Ayers Associates. Pleasure to be here today. So it is a privilege to work with the city in realizing the vision for the Waterfront Overlay District and the enhancements that we are considering. It is our understanding that the enhancements the city is looking for is to, first off, improve the pedestrian accessibility and safety along this area, in this segment of the overlay district, as well as seek to improve the vehicle patterns and traffic pattern, as well as optimize the parking throughout this district. And looking forward to working with you and assessing the feasibility of what improvements may be made and at what cost, and what makes the most sense for the city and the community, considering the comments we've received just thus far. And in working with the city, I believe their vision is in line with what the community is expressing on that vision for enhancing that area. And happy to answer any questions and go into detail as to the investigative measures we intend to employ, or any other questions you desire.
Were you able to use our existing traffic study for what you need, or we have to extend on that traffic study to your needs?
Indeed, that was an excellent traffic study performed, and I believe it will be sufficient for our needs for the feasibility study.
And I think one of the issues that came up at the last meeting is we had a pretty good drawing of the overhead that was limited in terms of the feasibility study to the red area and then a couple little areas in blue. And I think what we wanted to do, because realistically it's hard to look at this in terms of parcels, and I think we have to look at it holistically when we're going to put this together. So I think realistically the feasibility study would have to entail that whole area. And I think that's one of the reasons we wanted you to kind of come back and see if we could get a study, not only in terms of where the multi-path use that you have drawn out, but we wanted to see if it could extend up Old Post and hook into the sidewalk there, as well as running east-west on Cody Avenue and River Gulf Road. There's some undeveloped land there with no pedestrian or way for pedestrian traffic except for in the road. Before that's developed, we think that may be a good time to look at that for sidewalks, et cetera. And we wanted to know if that was, if we could expand that.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea to include those areas as well and optimize accessibility throughout the entire areas, particularly off of 19. We've submitted a revised project area map, including Old Post Road, and happy to include that within our proposal.
Okay. And can you tell us about that?
The Old Post Road?
Well, just because
Aspect?
I didn't have an updated map, so I was wondering if there was a copy.
I think maybe if you could you walk, because not everyone here maybe have had the benefit of looking at this, can you kind of walk through high level what you're doing, what you're doing for a feasibility study, and what is the deliverable at the end of the day that the citizens are going to be able to look at and get just high levels so we can walk through the entire proposal?
Absolutely. Our investigation will primarily focus on Bay Street there, from Catches and Bridge Street area up to Treadstone over to Old Post Road. The investigation and ultimate deliverable will be a feasibility report. The report will comprise mainly of three phases, three sections of the report. First off being a preliminary investigation, field reconnaissance, and a complete assessment of the existing conditions. How much available right-of-way is there? What is the current stormwater system flow regime? And how best can we garner the data needed to move on to phase two, which I would consider the engineering calculation and analysis aspect of the feasibility study, where we're going to look at what impact will these improvements have to that right-of-way and at what cost? What is the nature and disposition of the existing utility infrastructure? What is the swift mud stormwater permitting aspect of the parcels adjacent to those right-of-way and private property there? And then ultimately assemble that information into a report which will outline what enhancements may be proposed within this right-of-way and what is the cost of each of those enhancements.
Now, dumbing it down for my own understanding, so basically we'll have a report, we'll say that this is what we have now, this is what's available to us. Will it include the input from the business owners? There was a lot of questions or a lot of excitement from the business owners. Is there saying, well, will there be options presented that, well, if business owners do X, Y, if this business owner does X, Y, Z, and I'll use Gildog for an example, if he allows us to put in sidewalks along, will those options be presented as well, or what is available from?
Absolutely. I think it's very important to get community input and engage the property owners on what enhancements are most desired.
Okay.
And exactly what you're saying. Sidewalks, the width of the sidewalk, lighting enhancements, what type of driveway and access and ADA improvements may be made within the area, as well as optimizing the parking, perhaps street parking, perhaps converting the street to a one-way street may be an opportunity to afford additional right-of-way for a larger sidewalk, perhaps increase the parking capacity, and engaging the owners along this route will be paramount.
Now, will this report be in report format, or is there going to be drawings or renderings of what could be, or is this strictly a report only of what is available to us and what we could do and the approximate costs to that?
Twofold. It will be a report going over the engineering analysis in detail, as well as exhibits of which we will present conceptual plans and options on what enhancements may be accommodated within the right-of-way, what are the pros and cons of each approach, and then ultimately what would be the estimated construction costs of those improvements.
So after this is all your report is said and done, then theoretically we could sit down as a community together and kind of go through all of these options, have some visual input as well as some costs to each of these options as to how to proceed?
Absolutely.
I had a follow-up question along his lines. I've seen some feasibility studies done in the past, and the ones that I've seen, some of the bigger projects from the county, the way that I've seen them unfold is we have Plan A, which is what we can do now with what the city has for resources, land, whatever, and then there's Plan B, which we have in a kind of a dotted line in different areas where we can do a little bit more if we have easements and other things from property owners. When you do your property study, so it is going to entail both what we can do now versus what we may or may not be able to do with a little bit of extra cooperation from different businesses or landowners down there.
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
exactly what we envision. If
Okay.
the scale and magnitude of the improvements exceed what the city currently has budgeted, we would certainly recommend a phased approach. What can be done now to provide the most benefit to the community, and how could we phase out future improvements to accommodate the budget?
Okay.
Would it be your intent to reach out to each of the business owners individually and talk to them about what they're looking for, or what they feel could improve that? Are you going to go to that granular level of detail?
That would be the intent. My
Okay.
vision would be to meet with individual property owners, at first individually, and then bring together the group and reconcile what differences each owner may have, and with the intent to reconcile those differences and come up with the best approach that will benefit all the owners along that route.
I like the direction that we're going, but the only thing I would like to see is expand this up to Grand Boulevard. That intersection there where the stoplight is should be included, since we're directing a lot of the traffic to go northbound out at that intersection. Don't know what that vacant lot just on the north side of Grand is what it's going to be, but still the sidewalks, that pedestrian traffic flowing into that area, we need to look at as well.
I'd
So
be happy to include that area as well.
And I guess one of the biggest questions is overall cost, because we've expanded this project, and I saw that the cost, I think, was in the ballpark of $58,000 originally, and we've asked you to do more work than that was originally contemplated.
The original was 26,000.
Was it?
Yeah, then we
So
bumped it
the
up to...
58 was the new estimate.
The 58 is the latest and greatest, that he
Okay.
will hold it to no matter what we give him.
No, I gotcha. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure that, because I saw that estimate, and I couldn't remember if that was the same as the old one or not, or how much did it change?
The 58 is indeed the new
Okay.
estimate, including the additional area.
Okay. Any other questions by council?
No, but I was just going to mention that that workshop was really good. I think we had representation from every restaurant that showed up, and every business was there at the workshop. Everybody was very happy to see the direction that we're going, and everybody seemed very agreeable to do what they could do to help us and us them. One of the things that I asked when I was there is for all the business owners to put together their want and wish list from the city, so we can have that, is basically what you were just talking about as well, so we can all work together and make this thing move forward, and don't let the wheels fall off. So as we keep moving forward, this is a good upgrade. Eric had a lot of good suggestions as well, and I think we can get this all together, but we just need to pick a direction and start. And some of it, I think, is referred to as low-hanging fruit. Some of it's very easy to deal with. I think some of the sidewalks and some of the lighting we can accomplish pretty quick and get that moving and show that we're taking the steps in the right direction. But I did want to thank all the business owners that did show up for the workshop, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks, and with that, I didn't know if there was further discussion or motions, because in my opinion this is something that's long overdue, and particularly when you're talking about just safety in general, which should be our primary focus, and we should kind of continue that focus. And lighting and sidewalks, I think, like Vice Mayor Dittmer said, it's certainly the low-hanging fruit here. So I didn't know if you guys wanted to vote to go forward with the...
Motion to accept engineering proposal from Ayers Engineering for design of the waterfront overlay district.
Before we vote, any comments from the general public? Welcome. Mr. Mueller, come on up.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. Mr. Kinsella had a comment about expanding the scope to include Grand. I don't believe Grand is reflected in this, if my understanding. So we're at 58 grand. The number doubled from where it was before. I don't know if the scope of work doubled. It looks like there's more red on the paper. My concern is, we're nickel and diming this thing, maybe be, ability to accommodate that within those same framework.
I think he said he was going to include it, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Any other comments from the general public? Any comments from council before we vote? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And that was our only item for board business, but we still have old business or room for commentary. We have a little bit of time left, so if there's anything that the board would like to discuss about this, we certainly have a little bit of time now. If not, we can adjourn and wait for the next meeting. And I'll start with Mr. Dittmer to my left.
No, like I said, I was really happy with the workshop, how many owners and representatives showed up. And I think we have a vision, and I just think we need to stick to it. And I think from the feedback we got at that workshop, you all were very inclined to work with us, do what you can do for us and us for you, so thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I didn't have any further comment or questions. So.
I think it's wonderful. We're finally moving forward.
Thank you.
I have nothing.
I think this is going to be very exciting, very, very exciting.
And Mr. Sossaman.
I'm pleased that you took the direction, that step tonight, because I think from the folks that attended the meeting last week, it was very positive, and I'm glad we've had a couple show up, Martin and John tonight, and then also Jim's comments. And thinking bigger, I think, is better. It is a hidden gem. I didn't realize how extended it was, and of course I've lived within 25, 30 miles of it for, gosh, I guess 8 years now or more. So it is very, very encouraging to me. I actually have a phone conference lined up for next Wednesday with the government relations, community relations representative for Duke Energy. So I'm definitely going to be asking them for some type of contribution for our lighting efforts in the WOD. Doesn't ever hurt to ask, because the worst they can say is no, and we know what the answer will be. It'll be like they don't know if we don't ask. So that's there. And you all have an email that was CC'd to all of us from Eric Gildogs about his willingness to work with us on the sidewalk. And one thing that was brought up, I'm not sure we hit on it tonight that much, was an outdoor advertising signage. Think billboard, and I don't mean like necessarily on 19, because I think the gateway signage should go on 19, as well as more interior signing and also some pathway finding. I guess that's what they call it, to direct people to the different restaurants. But if there is some leeway for us to be able to use some of the funds, whichever fund it come from, I'm sure Jim and I can figure it out, hopefully, if it's legal, to do some outdoor advertising sign, maybe down on 54 or somewhere, to let people know what exists at the WOD here in Port Richey.
Thank you. That is one of the comments that I had too, that I guess I wanted to add is, I think at some point having an archway that comes in that lights the main treadway coming down would be nice. But I think we also need a nice signage out on 19, because I think that 19 is so heavily traversed that a lot of people that drive down 19 just don't know what's back there. So I think down the road, that's certainly something that we should look at and potentially address.
We discussed that Sun Cruise sign, the availability of that, and first thing that we have to look at as a city is ordinances for off-site signage. So there may be some changes that we have to make to allow us to put some signage, but I think as the city, we can handle that without a problem. But the signage is something that another one that we can move forward with fairly easy.
Because I think we have another $200,000 as part of the matching from.
$200,000 was for lighting and sidewalks.
Correct.
Signage.
It was engineering, lighting, and sidewalks is the way it was originally established. Not to say that we can't enhance or review that, but, I mean, pylon signs of substance, 150 square feet, or around 30 to 40,000.
But some of the lighting and signage may go hand in hand. You know, if you have an archway, you may have lights coming off it, so it seems to make sense to look at it holistically as opposed to trying to parcel it. The other issue that I wanted to bring up is I wanted to know if there was a time frame we should be looking at to reconvene when we may have a better idea of how the study's going, and I was going to ask Mr. Sossaman what his thoughts were on that.
On this issue, I think Chris can go back. He's looked at it with us. We've walked around the district, and he's now, I think, got to marching order for you all, so he's got a clear direction. So I think, hopefully, I would think we could have a presentation by our first meeting in December. That puts us, about 6 weeks plus or minus away. So that should be enough time to put it together. If he gets something quicker and we can bring it back to you earlier, we'll definitely do that, because I'd like to keep the momentum going.
Full
Thank you.
feasibility study in 6 weeks? You're moving.
He's energetic. You saw him speaking a while ago. I mean, he doesn't stand still
He's
long.
earning his 58,000.
And one more thing, if we can take a look into this special tax district, look at all the details, and maybe get some answers for these people here on that question that they had in the workshop, and what we have to do to work on that.
Absolutely. I'd like to find out more about it. I believe it was the SRIA tax in Pensacola. I'm not sure. I guess that's some type of special revenue fund. Jim may be more in tune with me, but it sounds like it's some type of sales tax that's tacked on. A lot of special districts around the country use a form of you call it hidden bid tax. Counties do that, and they have a lot of leeway there for outdoor advertising sign and partnering with the businesses like Whiskey Joe's and others. I know in my previous post, we did that with several businesses out on 75. So 54 is great because it is a growing area. It's not that far removed from Port Richey. So if they just drive, you hear it all the time on television with the car dealers, drive a little further, save a lot more money. So you know, you can drive a little further and you're not stuck on 54 looking at the traffic go by. You can actually see the water. And it's great views. There are $1 million views all the way out there, everywhere.
Thank you. And I think we did look at some point, we discussed it as a council, just going off recollection, whether or not we could tax down there. And I think that our city attorney had looked into that a little bit, and there were a lot of regulations and rules, and I think it would be very difficult if I remember that discussion, because it did come up at some point in the past. Mr. Yes, if you would, please.
Yeah. We're not a county where, you know, all these are
Right.
county issues, okay? What you're talking about is county issues. I recommend that Mr. Sussman go to the county, okay, any sales tax issues, whether they could be done through the state statute or something the county would do. Whether they would want to create a special taxing district upon themselves is a different issue. But we can't tax them, but that doesn't mean we can't coordinate some of that.
Yeah, they could coordinate it amongst themselves.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But as far as us taxing them, for them, we can't do that. I can give you a list of that. But there are other things, and they create a special taxing district among themselves. And there's some things in the county that I don't know because I don't represent a county, but definitely we should approach the county to see, because certain things can be done like that at the county level.
But even if they wanted to set up a special taxing district themselves, the businesses themselves, if I recall, it has to be fairly specific to what it's for, and there are a lot of regulations in terms of
There
how that's
sure
done.
is. It's a complicated thing. They need their own lawyer and everything. I think it's got to be unanimous, but I'm not sure. I'm not, you know.
Okay.
But I think there's some opportunity to do that at the county level.
Okay.
We could ask.
And the question is that something that between the two of you guys we can explore a little bit, maybe get some more information as we come back?
Absolutely.
Yeah, most of that's going to be at the county level, contacting them. That'd be the first place to go.
Okay. Because I think that's going to interplay with what we're doing here to a certain extent. Okay. Is everybody okay with that? I didn't mean to unilaterally make that decision. Any problems? Okay. That having been said, that's all that I had. If there's any follow-up. Okay. Looking for a motion? All in favor? Aye. Thanks. Hey. I've talked to a lot down there, but I missed.
Tuesday, because I came in with the bid opening. Expecting there to be bids. It was great, no, it was great. We had a
I think the general manager of Council Joe's, general manager, of course,
Of course.
and then I